would like you to all close your eyes and let my voice guide your senses. You pull into a large parking lot and see many SUVs and families waiting to get into the park. You hear sounds of amusement and screams from the roller coasters of children and families enjoying the rides. You feel the crispness of your day pass as you hand it to the man collecting the admissions tickets. You smell the funnel cakes that fill your entire nose and take over your senses. You give in to the amazing smell and taste one of the 67,000 funnel cakes that is sold by Hersheypark each year. Please open your eyes and take a look at one of the funnel cakes. Jennifer Berger, a lifestyle editor at Newsday, deemed that these funnel cakes was one of the most tasty facts that Hersheypark has to offer. As someone who has visited Hersheypark many times throughout my childhood, I say that this is just a taste of what the park has to offer. The park itself has a very sweet history that I would like to cover. Today I will inform you all of the rich, delightful development of Hersheypark. I will first start with the early days and beginning of it, then shifting into the late 1900s, and finally finishing off with 2000s and current days. To start, we must look at the foundations that have built the park itself. According to the Hershey's website, the park was built for the workers that worked in the factories for Hershey. This was a place where they were able to relax and take their families in their free time. Hershey's Hersheypark history outlined that the park was opened on Memorial Day, May 30th of 1906, on the banks of Spring Creek, tying in nature to the whole setup. July 4th of 1908 marked when the first merry-go-round was built on site, which became an instant hit for all who rode it. As you can see, this is a more developed carousel, which is actually built in 1912 that took over the original carousel, and according to Hershey Archives, it was $10,000 as an original investment and was spent by Denzel, who came from a long line of carousel builders. I think that the most astonishing fact about this is that the kids who rode it had the joy of reaching up to grab a brass hook, and if they did grab it, they'd get a free ride. So many kids try to reach up on their animals to grab it. To celebrate Hershey's 20th anniversary in 1923, the first roller coaster was established, which was called the Wildcat. As you can see by this picture, this is the roller coaster, the Wildcat, in a black and white photo with families enjoying it. By 1945, there were more than 24 attractions and amusements in the park itself. Hershey Archives described how the Wildcat transitioned to the Comet in the year 1946. The Comet's one of my favorite roller coasters, so I always like to address the history itself. As you can see to the left, this is the original Comet before any design improvements were taken on it. And to the right, you can see more the wooden roller coaster in the magnificent form it is in today. The most recognizable part about this is that it actually crosses the Spring Creek twice, bringing the nature component in yet again. Although these early beginnings and stages of Hersheypark were important to its overall development, the 1900s was when most of the advancements were made. According to Hersheypark history, in the year 1971, a 5-year rebranding took Hersheypark, the regional gem, into Hersheypark, the national treasure, bringing in double of tourism and people all over the world to see its pride and joy. Jennifer Berger accounted that in 1977, the Super Duper Looper was the first modern looping roller coaster built on the East Coast. As you can see, there's nothing short of loops and dupes in the roller coaster. Hersheypark history accounted that in May 1994, Tidal Wave, the world's tallest water plunge ride, was built. As you can see, the ride takes passengers slowly up before going to its peak and then dropping them down, creating a big splash as you see in the right. Although slightly terrifying, it is fun for many of the people who go to visit it. The 90th season brought on the gift that the Hersheypark brought to all who visit, and they deemed the Wildcat as a tribute to its original form. As you can see, it's still a wooden roller coaster. However, the Comet did take over its original spot, so it was relocated. And this was a tribute to the original Wildcat that came before the Comet. In 1998, the Great Bear was built. It was PA's first steel inverting roller coaster, and it had passengers hang upside down, and their bodies were thrown in all sorts of different directions. Although really scary and terrifying, it brought a lot of amusement and a lot of tourism, and it actually has some of the longest lines today. From transitioning from the late 1900s to current day 2000s, you can see that all of these advancements had a big impact. Hersheypark's history described that the early 2000s, one of the biggest advancements was the addition of the Lightning Racer, which is the world's dueling roller coaster in the US. A unique feature of this is that it has two roller coasters that loop over each other, which creates a visual that they're almost crashing into each other in a whole element in itself. In 2007, the Hersheypark Boardwalk at Hersheypark opened, which was the first water park the Hersheypark world had to see. It featured a big pool, as well as a lazy river, many water attractions, and food vendors specific to the park. The most recent development, though, is in 2018, we saw that Breaker's Edge, a water coaster, was the first hydromagnetic coaster to go to the park and also the world. If you can see here, it's the combination of your traditional water slide, but also in the build of a roller coaster. It has smaller passenger cars and a magnetic field holding it down to the water, but it creates a really fast stream on the water itself. Transitioning from the advancements in the early 2000s and the ones that we see closer to today, we see that it shapes the park and is something more familiar that we see currently. To summarize what I've talked about today, I've talked about all the advancements coming from the early stages of Hersheypark itself into the late 1900s and ending with current day 2000s. A notable part about Hersheypark, according to the Hersheypark website, is that it's open for all 4 seasons, with summer having all attractions open, which is more than 14 roller coasters and 70 attractions in total, with spring giving a sneak peek into summer, winter used as a time to view the 4 million Christmas lights they put up through a walkway, and Halloween having Halloween in the dark, where they have both the zoo going with the creatures of the night as well as the roller coasters and everything being open in the dark. Today you can see that the legacy of Milton and the tradition that he does is still very evident. To leave you all with one final thought, however, today Milton is still honored through that all workers and employees of the Hershey Resorts and Company get to go to Hersheypark with their families for free, which I think is a really important thing, tracing back to the priority of workers when he built this park. This just is one of the things that plays into the sweet, rich history of Hersheypark, and I hope that in the future, when you all go to the Hersheypark, you can understand the importance and the history that helps us to see the park as it is today.